So here's the next video. This one I'm going to talk about the 3DS. Just some considerations if you're wanting to buy one. Price points, availability, which model you should get, and whether you should buy it. I mean, spoiler, yes, you should buy one. As long as the price is good, you should get one. Don't just close the video and go get one. But yeah, so I have a couple different models here. I have the 3DS, not the new 3DS, just the 3DS original, the smaller size, so the regular size. And then I have a new 3DS XL. So this will stand in for the new version and the original because the form factor is the same, and this will stand in for the new version and the original because the form factor is the same. So things to consider here. Obviously the first thing is the screen size. The new 3DS and the 3DS XL both have the larger screen. The main difference between the new and the original is the processor is faster on the new one. So if you want to play Xenoblade Chronicles, you need the new one. It just won't even work on the original. And you get like this little nib thing here, which is good for like Ocarina of Time and some scrolling. And the layout's slightly different. The buttons like here, but generally speaking, it's the same. It's just that processor makes a little bit of a difference. When you're looking at emulation, I don't think there's a difference in terms of speed. The emulators work as well on one as the other, the new or the original. The smaller version here, like I said, just assume that these were the same model. They would run exactly the same. Speed is the same. The games don't load up any faster. It's literally just the screen size. So you get a slightly smaller screen, which is fine. I mean, it depends what you want. You get a lot more portability out of them. The 3DS regular size is ultra portable, so it's the same size, a little bit smaller actually than an iPhone 8 Plus. It's thicker, but it's slightly smaller, so you can easily pop it into a pocket and take it with you. The screen real estate's still pretty good. I mean, we're always being pushed on nowadays. The biggest screen is the best. This is still reasonable. When you're playing a game, nothing seems super small. So the 3DS games, they look great. The 3DS XL, I mean, you just get a lot more screen real estate. So if you're playing native 3DS games, I would say they definitely look better on this. It's bigger, it's easier to see, but I find that when I'm playing quite a bit for like hours and hours, it's a heavier device. And in general, the 3DS lineup is not very ergonomic. It's okay, but it's not designed to like fit in your hands. It's not a comfortable device, I would say. So if you're playing for hours and hours, I actually found that the original 3DS size, the smaller size, is actually more comfortable for a long gaming session, despite having fairly large hands. It's just a little bit more comfortable. Let's get out of there because that's going to be annoying. Let's turn the volume off on this real quick. Yeah, they both are very good build quality. They're like kind of glossy and gross. The 3DS here, it shows fingerprints like a fair bit. This is like recently cleaned. It's still pretty gross. This one I just picked up is like horrible for fingerprints. It's actually like gross. My hands aren't even like slimy. I just washed them, and just like being near this, it becomes slimy. So that's gross. You might want to get a case for it. But I did find when I was filming videos on the original 3DS normal size, the screen is very, very glossy, much more than the new 3DS XL. I'm not sure if the original, if the smaller size of the new 3DS is as glossy, but I'm not a big fan of that. The actual screen itself gets a lot of reflection, and when you're filming it, it's hard to pick up, but it's pretty glossy. So if you're in like a well-lit area with a lot of reflections, you can see it even on the camera. It's like almost like a mirror. So you really have to have a good viewing angle on it. Even though it's an IPS, like you can see it from these other viewing angles, it just doesn't look great. So that's one thing to be aware of. In terms of entry price, the 3DS XL, whether it's new or not, in Canada, you're looking at, again, you have inflated prices right now because of availability of Switches and people are in lockdown. But you're probably looking at about $100 would be an entry point. If you get lucky, they go up to like $350 locally, which is crazy to me. Like that's obscene. Just jump in at $150, you'll be fine. And they're really common. I see them all the time locally. Online, the prices are more varied. The original size, the normal size, I see a lot less often. When I do, they're cheaper, quite a bit cheaper. You're looking at like $80 to $100, usually around $100 Canadian. But a lot of the time these are more beat up, and I'm not sure if it's because it's an older model or I don't know, the build quality or just who had them, like the demographic being like maybe kids or something, but they're more likely to have like hinge issues and just be kind of in gross condition and look nasty. I mean, you can fix them up a bit, but within reason. I wouldn't be buying like a destroyed 3DS because they always pop up. Once you get them, you mod them, you have access to all kinds of stuff. They're really easy to mod. You do need an SD card to mod them, micro SD card. But I mean, whatever, it's fine. The original one uses an SD, a standard SD, but you can get the SD adapter, micro SD adapter. So whatever, that's an adapter that actually is a micro SD, but that's the form factor. The XL uses a SD, micro SD. The new 2DS XL, which I had before this and I sold it, it's on my video, but I gave it to my older brother, sorry. It also takes a micro SD, the small size, and it's actually easier to get to because on the bottom there's a little hinge you can pop open and you can get access to that on the new 2DS XL, which is great. Because that's how you actually install your games and your ROMs and whatever you do in your hacks. You take it out and you put it in your PC, you do the modding, and you put it back in. With this one, you actually have to take off the back, remove it, and you take the SD card out, which is it is actually a pain in the ass, to be honest. On this one, you can just pop it out from the side. So not that that is any consideration for buying, but that's what you need to be aware of. Micro SD, SD. Sizes seem to be fine. I have a 120, I have a 128 in here, and it's no problem. Once it's modded, is fine. I think when it's not modded, you have to go lower. But I think you can mod it with as low as a 4 GB. This is just a 4 GB, and I did the mod with that, and it worked fine. It was enough space. It's pretty much max now, so you're gonna wanna. I will want to get a bigger one to put more games on it. What else is interesting? Games themselves, they're easy to find. So if you don't want a mod, you can get a 3DS game for pretty cheap. They're easy to find right now. The eShop is still up, pending. You know, it's going to be going down sooner or later, so it's a good time to get these before the eShop goes down. Because, you know, there's always that threat of the DS eShop going down and the 3DS eShop going down because they're not officially making them anymore. So if you want to get those virtual console games or, you know, even ones that are on cartridge but they have virtual console versions, now's the time to do it before that disappears. Once you mod, then, I mean, you have access to whatever you want. You can throw on Twilight menu, which ends up loading up 3DS games or original DS games, so you can play original DS games on here. DS runs natively on the 3DS because you can actually put in DS cartridges. So I could put in this like Mario cartridge here, and it would end up loading up totally fine. So that's a DS game. Boom, right away it loads up. So DS and 3DS run natively. If you install Twilight menu once you have the mod, the custom firmware, then you can load up, you know, virtually. You can just have them on your memory card and load them up virtually, so you don't have to carry around 400 games. So one of the benefits of custom firmware is, you know, you can dump your games and then you don't have to carry around 50 cartridges everywhere you go, and you have the security of if something gets taken down from the virtual shop, the eShop, and then you end up, you know, you don't have access to it anymore. Well, you still have access that way. Game Boy Advance also runs amazing on here. You can load up basically virtual shop versions of them, eShop versions of them, and they run basically natively. I haven't had any compatibility issues where the games don't run well, so it works really good. In terms of Game Boy Advance emulation, like between this and a Vita and a PSP, this is by far the best. It runs excellent on the 3DS and the 3DS XL. I've had no issues with Game Boy Advance on it, so I actually play all my Game Boy Advance games on these devices because they run so well. Yeah, it's easy to mod. It takes half an hour. The directions are when you go online, you can find them. You have to be very careful when you follow them, but it's very explicit. It's easy to follow. You do the mod and then you're good to go. You can install all these different ROMs. I haven't done emulation of like Super Nintendo and, you know, Genesis and that, but I've seen them run. They run totally fine. But that's another thing. So if you get the 3DS, one of the 3DS versions, you have access then to DS games, and you have access to Game Boy Advance games, and then other retro consoles as well. So they're quite good. Having that double screen is really nice if you're playing DS games. I mean, you could play them on like a tablet or something, but it's just going to have like a bar down the center. It looks good too on a tablet, but the 3DS original is the same size as a DS Lite. It's almost the exact same form factor, so super portable. If you have a DS, you know, you can look at the screen size, and it's basically identical on the bottom. The top screen is slightly larger here because it's widescreen, But when you play, I have a video and I play DS games on all three of them. The DS games don't look as good on the XL. They absolutely don't look as good. They look phenomenal on the DSi. It's designed for the DSi. They look great on the DS Lite, whichever one you have. Sorry, this is a DS Lite. They look good on the DS Lite and the DSi. I've never played an original DS, so I don't know. And they look essentially on par on the 3DS, the original size. So you're not messing with the aspect ratio. You're not stretching it out. So the pixelation is lower on these size here than this. So if you're thinking, which of these should I buy here? If you're going to do a lot of DS gaming and Game Boy Advance, I mean, they actually look better on this one here. If you're going to play a lot of almost exclusively 3DS, I mean, they do look better on there, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just grab which one's better for you. If it was the same price and you had the option of getting both, I would get the 3DS personally, the XL 3DS personally. But if you have to go with the original size one, you're not compromising. It's still a great machine. I would lean towards getting the new version, whichever size you get, if possible, just because you can play like Xenoblade and there's some other games that are exclusive to that. But again, there's only a few, so if you have access to just the original, you still have access to like, thousands of games at this point that play directly through the 3DS. So yeah, so that's something to consider. Again, price-wise, 150 would be acceptable Canadian, 100 to 150 would be acceptable Canadian. Don't go out there and buy these for $300 because that's all you're seeing. Just wait, the prices will come down. Once things open up more, people are able to get Switches more easily, their prices are going to go down. They already have a bit from in the summer when the Switch was highly inflated. So those are a couple things to consider. I mean, once you get them, you're going to want to get a case, to be honest, so they don't get scratched. $10. This is a metal-ish, maybe fake metal, but it's metal, simulated metal. It's $10. Then you're protected that way. This thing came with it, but these $10 as well. Screen protectors. You can use glass on the top, I guess, in theory, but I just got plastic ones from, I think it's called City Geeks on eBay, and I've ordered from them many times. It's a plastic screen protector. You absolutely are going to want it on the bottom because you're grinding into that with your stylus, and you'll get scratches all over the screen. So when you're looking for 3DS, to buy, check out the bottom screen because you'll get some of them are all grimy and scratched up there, and it's not easy to fix that. So throw in a screen protector the day you get it. Make sure you buy one with a nice bottom screen. Throw a screen protector on it. Throw it on the top anyways, even though you're not touching it, just to keep it safe. So you're looking at around $20 to buy in terms of the case protectors, and the memory cards $10 probably. So you're looking at $30 on top, maybe 40 to get into this like full blown right off the bat, and you're ready to go. Charging cables, if you lose yours, you can also find them for pretty cheap, third party or just natively. So anyways, yeah, so definitely pick one up. The DS is also great, the original DS. But I mean, if you have the choice between the two, get the 3DS because you can also play 3DS games and DS games, and the emulation scene in terms of other consoles is a lot better on this, Game Boy Advance and all that. So unless you can get these for super cheap and you just want it, get a 3DS, or get a 3DS XL.